this is what I have really is essentially a working paper on the future of work, and with a concentration on remote work in the emerging new normal. And it's based on secondary sources and draws heavily on what is referred to here as the Gratton framework, and supports the view that work can be perceived as being done conceptually at various intersections of time and place. Further, employees, organizationally or nationally, can be expected to be engaged in work activity that is either constrained or unconstrained by time, or constrained or unconstrained by where they can work or where they must work, which would be the place. The job and employment time-place combinations resulting from this would be classifications emerging from time frame perspectives. Okay, next one. The graphic that is on the screen now is based on what we've just said, and where and how people work in terms of time and place, extending on the Gratton framework, would therefore depend on their psychological and legal contracts and their job types and occupations. What this graphic tries to capture is the universe of hybridized workforce jobs as they are today. And it would again be dependent on, that would be dependent on the time and place of work. From that, we get another graphic which shows different types of workers in segment 1, segment 2, segment 3, segment 4. Interesting as would be the polar opposites of constrained time and constrained place, where you have your regular 9 to 5 people working. And at the polar extreme would be people who work anywhere, anytime. They're unconstrained by time, unconstrained by place, and this will be your general gigging type workers. I wanted to focus on segment 1 and segment 4. A very interesting development from what I was looking at would be the part-time workers, for example, the gigging C-suite workers on contract. These are used especially in startups and in small to medium-sized enterprises with marketing personnel shortages. And they are hired for short-term assignments and projects. Because of time, we wouldn't spend a lot of time on the other sections, but the anytime, anywhere workers that you would find would be unconstrained by time and unconstrained by place, by the place they can work, and you have your virtual teams, sometimes overlapping in terms of place, in different time zones, different continents, even and even within the same country, different time zones. And that would be your, give you a big draw on talent from around the world. And these would be your gig workers, international and local. Some of the factors that are expected to shape the emerging new normal. One term that is used quite a lot would be hybridization, which would be in-person and remote work. And these, from these models, you would see the models coming emerging from that would show the adjustments being made to in-person and remote work, as these two areas are expected to be given greater focus as we break out and countries are better able to handle the pandemic. Remote work has received great attention recently because of the shutdown, but it has surfaced a number of organizational, societal, and economic upsides and downsides. Some of the upsides regarding remote work, and with respect to businesses and employers especially, is that if the current organizational patterns of remote work persist, there can be a continuation of the realized savings regarding office space and real estate costs. Some firms saw work performance and productivity improvements. For example, some firms in the banking industry, JP Morgan Chase, for example. Note to some workers too may be willing to take an 8% pay cut, underscoring the non-monetary benefits of remote work, and that can benefit the bottom line of many of their employers. Some adopting companies did not have to feel odd at going it alone, because many companies actually moved into remote work all about the same time. Some companies became enablers of remote work with expenditures on equipment, especially with laptops, and you can see that with the demand for greater laptops, there's a problem with the chip industry in terms of supply. What the remote work and the shutdown especially proved was that working remotely can be productive and profitable. Upsides regarding employees, taking an employee perspective. For those employees exercising the work from home option, some experience gains and improvements regarding quality of work life, productivity, enjoyment of flexibility, especially for those with children, as some schools adopted online and/or hybrid instruction delivery. Some workers expressed great gratitude and gained greater job satisfaction, and that was coupled with stress reduction. For those exercising the working from anywhere option, there remains the potential for the extension of the careers of those who, for health reasons, may be forced to reside in locations more favorable to their health condition, while transferring organizational memory, especially to younger workers. For downsides, for the businesses and employers especially, continuing to work with what obtained during the worst periods of the pandemic could mean some of the following. Remote work reinforcing a negative impact regarding teams and teamwork. And that is manifested in the tendency to give greater credit for a collective output to those who are more visible by virtue of being in the office. Businesses can lose the benefits of creative serendipity. That comes with in-person presence and exchanges that occur during working hours. Although it's unfair to place all of the blame at the feet of the teaching profession, yet teachers are receiving a large share of the blame for the failure of certain school districts, where a large number of F grades have become associated with remote teaching. This can be mitigated somewhat with the proposed hybrid teaching modality, where you can have students decide whether they can actually be in class or still or combined get instruction remotely. Downsides, an employee perspective. Downsides regarding the workers exercising working from home option in the new normal can result in monotony, social isolation, and burnout. And this presents work-life separation challenges with implications for scheduling and work structure. If this becomes even more widespread and formalized, Some working from home may find greater difficulty remaining on task when home becomes the workplace. Working remotely can also mean a lack of co-worker proximity, reducing the chances of creative conversational exchanges and serendipities that follow. Then there's the issue of psychological safety, as this relates to giving your opinion at work without fear of humiliation and punishment, especially regarding work content. Very importantly, there is the issue of burnout. Remote workers may engage in overcommitment, maybe to show that they are actually on the job. And that would manifest itself in exhaustion, a reduction of mental and physical resources, cynical detachment, a reduction in social connectedness, and a reduced sense of efficiency and an erosion of value for oneself. The above elements are to be regarded as resources to be brought back to satisfactory levels, that is. Double taxation. During the pandemic, at least some may have been forced to take up residence in less severe COVID-19 areas, with single incomes being taxed twice, where they work, where they are sheltering, and where the companies may be centrally located, or where they took their jobs first.
Simon, you got about 2 minutes.
How many?
Got 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yes. All right. Conclusion. Various forms of organizational hybridization may be morphing from informal to formal HRM policy, born from the pandemic experience. And in the short to medium term, with worker shortages being experienced in various sectors of the economy, sign-in bonuses may no longer be enough to attract lower paid workers. Some firms may have to pay higher wages for some hard to find workers. For example, farmers are now using car raffles in their current recruitment drives. Company policy on the future of work would be very interesting, and you must look out for the transitions. Apple wants to its employees to return to office. Facebook wants managerial approval. Similarly, Twitter. And Google may entertain having employees back into the offices for 3 days a week. In the long run, some gigging activities may be used as a bridge to new occupations. Financial Times recently reported that remote workers will grow up to 36.2 million by 2025. Future research regarding remote work and the future of work would be the extent of the formalization of remote work as company HRM policy. Also important would be the impact of technology, AI and man-machine, and man plus machine, the man plus machine interface on worker displacement, on any impact on remote work this may have. Conclusion. The emerging new normal is shaping out to be a very dynamic environment with lots of moving parts, influenced by an evolving, highly technology-driven, and fiercely competitive global marketplace. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening, and your questions, if you have any.